Hi, everyone. Good morning, and thanks for making time to be with us today. My name is Mandy Paradise, and we are here to do the Open Doors Youth Reengagement statewide fall all call. This is one of the first events we've done that is statewide, and we're so thankful that you joined us today. A reminder about clock hours for those of you who are interested in getting free clock hours for today's session. We do hope that you'll participate fully because that is one of the qualifications for getting clock hours. You can go to PD Enroller. Jenna has dropped that link in the chat and register for event 162541. Today's agenda includes, after brief introductions, we're going to put everybody in rooms to make some friends and mingle. So you can expect breakout rooms right away to share about your experiences and your programs. We'll be doing a brief set of OSPI updates and then moving on to some reminders about how our program works. Then we'll move into the policy pieces and the policy updates. We'll have some guests join us to do some technical assistance and technical explanations related to those policies. We'll close up with one more mingle activity so you can, again, connect with your colleagues, and that'll be it. Today's goal for the webinar is to improve our awareness of Open Doors Youth Reengagement rules and requirements. Time to move in to meet the team here at OSPI. Some of you may know me. My name is Mandy Paradise. I am the Open Doors Youth Reengagement Program Supervisor here, and I get to work with a team who make all of this possible. I'm going to go ahead and pass it to Jenna to introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jenna Millette. I am an Attendance and Re-Engagement Program Specialist with OSPI. I get to work closely with Mandy, and I'll hand it over to Liz.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Liz Quayle. I go by she, her pronouns, and I'm in the Learning Options Department at OSPI. I'm the Accountability Manager for Alternative Learning Experiences and also the Mastery-Based Learning Managers. And I get to have the wonderful pleasure of working with Jenna and Mandy.
Thanks, everyone. We have a few other presenters joining us today. We have Becky McLean from our student apportionment. She is actually presenting not just her own content, but also representing Tim McLean in dual credit. And we also have Dr. Jill Deal from representing CTE and the high school and beyond planning program supervisor work. So we encourage you to ask questions of these folks because they've joined us live exactly so you can do that and get the kind of information you were hoping to get from the experts themselves.
All right, for our first mingle activity, we'll be putting you into breakout rooms of approximately 6 people per room. And as you introduce yourself, we'd like you to please share a highlight or an anecdote from your program that showcases the successes that you are making with students.
I'm going to go ahead and open all rooms now.
All right, welcome back, everybody, from the breakout rooms. We were wondering if maybe one person would like to share one of the highlights or their highlight from their breakout room before we move forward.
A lot of us are here to learn. That was our highlight, I think, from our group.
Thanks, Christy. That's really wonderful to hear. I hope that we give you what you're looking for. This is another opportunity for me to plug our post-session evaluation. We definitely want to give you the information that you're interested in having. So at the end of today's meeting webinar, you'll have a link to complete our evaluation survey. And that's an opportunity to tell us, did we hit the mark? How was the timing? What can we change? What might you like to see in the future? So if we don't get to everything, please let us know what else we could add. All right, Jenna, I think we're ready to move forward in our deck. To ground us in moving forward, I did want to do a quick overview of OSPI's role. It can be a little confusing when folks from around the state get together and are on a meeting with OSPI. What's our role? It can be elusive at best sometimes. Jenna, Liz, myself, and some of our colleagues on the meeting today, our primary focus is to be able to support you and to create policy that promotes our program. We also, oh, Jenna, will you click forward? Oh, thanks. Allocate funding, and we create technical resources, tools, and we offer technical assistance too as well. So that's really the focus of what we do here at OSPI. We are always looking to improve that work too. Our hope is that these programs can thrive moving forward. We wanted to provide you a sense of what's happening at OSPI as it relates to Open Doors Youth Reengagement. So this is where we'll be providing just a brief list of updates to keep you informed about the program. As many of you know, in late October this month, on the 26th and 27th, we have our Open Doors Youth Reengagement Summit. This is a one-time only event. We're very, very excited to offer it. The summit is going to be about networking with your colleagues and getting deep into the data of Open Doors. You'll get to see snapshots and profiles of various programs that have met a certain level of performance, and they'll be sharing with us a little bit about how they do what they do for Open Doors. The other update that is top of mind for me are the summer pilots. OSPI was gratefully the recipient of proviso dollars. Those proviso dollars enabled an Open Door summer pilot to occur. So it happens over 2 fiscal years. We were able to start our summer pilot just this last summer. What that means is we had 5 different Open Doors programs be able to offer summer programming where the students were portionable for 12 months instead of just the regular 10. We also enabled those summer pilots to do some different types of activities and use funding in ways that usually are not allowable in our program. We look forward to giving you more updates on the summer pilot. For anybody who's read the newsletter or been able to keep up, that's where we're trying to just pepper you with some information about what's taking place. This following summer, we will have the end of the summer pilot. There will be some outreach to various programs to participate in that final year. The determining factor for participating in the summer pilot is all about the amount of post-resident youth that your program serves. For our purposes, the legislature has tasked OSPI's summer pilot to prioritize students who have been previously incarcerated, and we refer to those students as post-resident youth. So in order to be selected for the pilot, we're looking at data to determine how many post-resident youth are served in your program, and those are the ones we're prioritizing. So you may get outreached by us, and if you have any additional questions, please feel free to email myself, Liz, or Jenna at any time. Next up is barrier reduction, and I'm going to ask Jenna to move to the next slide so I can do a little bit of in-depth awareness raising. Barrier reduction is referring to the kind of monies or funds that would allow you to reduce barriers to participating in Open Doors for your students. Things like transportation costs, equipment, gear, clothing, meals. Those are all items that can sometimes get in the way of a student being able to fully participate in the program. We were able to have our Open Doors barrier reduction request included in what's called a decision package. And we have asked the legislature for $1.9 million to be spread across all Open Doors enrolled students. In order for this to actually come to fruition requires legislative approval. And that's where the decision package comes into play. Go ahead, Jenna, next slide. For those of you who aren't as familiar with the legislative process, this is what's called a supplemental budget year. And the way an agency requests or proposes projects is through what's called a decision package. So OSPI has submitted a decision package. At the bottom of the slide, you'll see it says, overcoming barriers to students, overcoming barriers to student success through integrated supports. That's the full decision package. Because it is a short session, we as an agency are able to suggest or promote modifications and build-ons or little small adjustments to already existing programs like ours, Open Doors. So we've made the request for an adjustment, which is in our program, we would really see the benefit to offering barrier reduction funds to help reduce student barriers to participation in the program. We won't have an update on this until the end of the legislative session, but if you are interested in seeing what's contained in our decision package, it is linked here, and I know that Jenna's dropped it in the chat. There are a variety of things that relate to re-engagement and engagement practices, all bundled together in that decision package, but our barrier reduction funding is among them. Other OSPI updates to share with you today are our web resources and the long-awaited IAP manual. We always try to refer folks to our Open Doors Youth Reengagement resources webpage. And on the resources webpage is a list of materials that are both guidance and reference. Some of these you've probably seen before, but we've added a new one, and that's our IAP manual, our indicators of academic progress, frequently asked questions. So for programs who tend to kind of stick to one or two IAPs because you're not quite sure how to implement the others, we have tried to create a document that can walk you through all of our IAPs by letter or by topic area. So we really hope that this resource is useful to you. And again, if you have questions about indicators of academic progress, please reach out to myself, Liz, or Jenna at any time. Now we're going to get into the good stuff. We wanted to remind you your questions are welcome at any time. You don't have to wait for us to prompt for them. We also want to acknowledge that because we have a large group today, we might not get to all the questions. So please do document them, send us an email, or put them in the chat. We're going to move into some program reminders here, and I'm going to pass the mic to Jenna, I believe, to start us off.
Thanks, Mandy. So just a reminder, I'm going to go over the high school diploma pathway for Open Doors. So to graduate, students must complete a high school and beyond plan, the credit and subject area requirements, a graduation pathway option, and any other local district requirements. And this requires you to stay in communication with your school district to make sure that students are meeting those requirements. And note that Washington State does require 24 credits in items 1 through 3 for a high school diploma. Go ahead and pass it over to Liz.
All right, for age requirements, in order to be eligible for Open Doors Youth Reengagement, students must be age 16 on or before September 1st of the school year. So if they turn 16 on September 2nd, they have to wait a whole year before they can get in. So that's language that was put together early on. We're trying to find out the source of why the date was put in there, but that is the language in the state rules, and so we have to go by those. Also, if a student is age 21 on or before September 1st, they can no longer be served for that upcoming school year. These age requirements cannot be waived. They can't be changed unless we do a state rules revision. So, and those are some things that we've had many people ask about. And so we will likely be having conversations about that at the Open Doors Summit.
Thank you, Liz. The last reminder on our program is about the intent of the program and the waiver utilization in Open Doors. Generally speaking, our program is intended to serve older youth who are unable or unlikely to graduate with their 4-year cohort and students who are severely credit deficient. Thus, we do the credit deficiency threshold, and the calculator is used for documentation. We wanted to remind folks that students who do not meet those credit deficiency thresholds are allowable in Open Doors on a waiver in some instances. We wanted to also note for you that our guidance to programs is that approximately 10% of your student enrollments can enter the program by referral or waiver. This is not in our WAC and it's not in the law, but it is a best practice that we've put forth in the program. Please note that when we are reviewing your applications for renewal, we do take a moment to look at your data for how many students are in on waiver, just to try to make sure that your program is still adhering to that intent for serving older students and severely credit deficient students. Now we're moving into our policy portion of the meeting. So here's what we're going to share. We're going to be able to introduce a variety of topics to you, things like running start, credit consolidation, a variety of other topics. We're going to present to you the policy that goes with them, the resources, and most importantly, the point of contact. We are not generally the experts on these particular topics and policies, but we want to give you the point of contact that is, so that if you have questions or concerns, you know exactly who to talk to find out more information. And with that, I believe we have our first guest presenter, Dr. Jill Deal, to kick us off.
Hi, Mandy, thank you everyone for allowing me to be here today. I am Dr. Jill Deal. I work at OSPI as a program supervisor. I am currently in the CTE department this week until Friday, and then next week I move over to the graduation pathway department. I've been at OSPI for a little over a year, and I have, previous to this, I had about 34 years in the public education system, all in Washington State. Most of that has been in secondary education, but I did have a small section of my life in the community college system prior to going into K-12. I've been a principal, I've been a teacher, I've been a counselor, a career counselor, a CTE director, special ed director, superintendent, and a lot of other things in between. And as a principal, both in the comprehensive high school and also in an alternate, I started two different alternative high schools. And I was one of the first, I was in Longview when Open Doors started, and I was one of the first districts. We were one of the first districts to have an Open Doors program. So that was a few years ago. So that was kind of interesting. So that's my experience. And what I'm going to talk to you about today, two topics, but the first one is this new elective credit for paid work experience. And I think some of you may remember that initially there was a proposal that came out from our superintendent, Chris Rickdahl, about elective credit for paid work experience. And then legislation came out after his announcement, and that legislation did pass and came to be House Bill 1658 that was passed and allows elective credit for paid work experience. And what that meant was that students can, with that legislation, for high schools that offer students the opportunity to learn those financial education learning standards that Washington has, this high schools can offer up to 2 elective credits for students. The students have to be at least 16 before they can participate in that. And there is a process for it. So what I can tell you, first of all, is there's a bulletin coming out, I think, this week that will give you more information. So I'm going to give you an overview.
Thursday?
Yeah, Thursday.
Okay. I want an update with search times.
All right.
I'm sorry, I thought that was a question. So I just wanted to let you know that that bulletin is going to be coming out to districts this week, and it's going to give you more information and a greater detail. So I'll just give an overview, but then know that that bulletin also is going to have some resources. I have some guidance resources attached to that. Frequently asked questions document, a guidance for implementation document. And then we've also created some sample forms that you can use. One of the things to remember with this particular piece of legislation to be implemented, the credit that you earned is elective only, and students that participate in that, the board of the school district has to have a policy in place. And right now waOSPI is working on a model policy. I believe it's 2401. And there is information about that in the bulletin, but that policy needs to be in place before students can participate in this. And students also need to have permission from the district prior to participating in the program. So we have developed a sample form that you can use for that approval process, but districts can also develop their own once they have that policy passed. And in addition to that, the employer has to be verified, and other than that, it aligns fairly closely to most of our other worksite learning programs. We did passed 2 different WACs related to that. 392-121-139 is our financial piece, and or I think I might have that reversed. And then 316, so that for apportionment, this is you can get basic ed funding if this is during the school day and within the student's 1.0 FTE, but it is for elective credit. It's basic education funding only. There is some confusion because a lot of our worksite learning programs, we do have CTE worksite learning, we have mastery-based learning worksite learning. We have a lot of different options. We have paid and unpaid. So there is, this is new for the elective credit for paid work experience. So that is not in our current handbook. We have a handbook on worksite learning. It talks about all of the other options that are out there right now prior to this law being passed. So just be aware of that. I know the links that are in this, I believe you guys look at this slide, it gives you a little more information about it. But I think the guidance documents that we're going to be providing out with the bulletin will give you more. It can be any paid work. It does have to be paid work. They have to be an actual employee, legally employed with the business. And the credits are awarded at 360 hours for 1 credit, which is in line with all of our other programs. And I don't know if you have other questions about that. Even though I'm moving to another position, this piece of my responsibility will still be with me. So I will still be the person that you would contact for that.
I have a question.
Okay.
I'm just wondering because we've been, or maybe so with Open Doors with the 40-hour IAP where they're doing like work site, like let's just say they're like on a work site and we're doing IAPs for 40 hours and then offering elective credits. Like some places I think have already been doing that. So do we need to shut what we're doing down and switch over to this other?
No, not necessarily. This is just an additional program. So I don't know what you have, without knowing more about your program, I don't know how
Right.
it's structured, but if you're already doing something, this doesn't take away from what's already in practice. This is
Okay.
something, okay. And this is really tied to those financial learning standards, not financial aid standards, financial learning standards. So students do have to demonstrate pre and post skills in those financial standards. Those have to be assessed. They have to write a narrative. So there's some pieces that students have to do. This is a different program. And what this one was really designed for, I think, is for students who already have a job. And this is an opportunity for them to get credit for that job, but they have to go through the approval process. So first of all, the district has to have the policy passed.
Right.
The student has to get approval from the district first, and then there's some guidelines for how that is assigned. So this is just an additional program that's available. It does have a 2 credit limit, and so that's something to be aware of. Whereas our CTE worksite learning doesn't have a credit limit, and so this one is unique in that it does have a 2 credit limit.
Okay, and then you said it was basic ed funding, but so if we're utilizing this program in Open Doors, how? Because Open Doors isn't necessarily basic ed, right? Or am I?
I can take that one.
Okay,
Thank you.
go for it.
Yeah. It's a good question, Cindy. We are basic ed funded. So this is actually one of those instances where it blends really well with Open Doors. Sometimes when we talk about CTE, we get a little bit of like wonkiness because our program does not reimburse CTE rates. And so that's where I think there's some, like, you're on the right track. There are sometimes funding restraints, but in this case, as Jill was talking about, because it's BEA funding, it's a really natural fit for our program to be able to enable your students who are working to earn elective credit. And then you were also referencing the IAP, and in our case, the IAP for work-based learning doesn't result in credit. It just results in an IAP.
Right.
So this is a way for the credit to come with. Great questions. I'm so glad you asked. Anybody else have a question about CTE or anything else for Jill before she moves on to her next topic?
Oh,
Is this can an IAP be claimed for each credit? So there's a maximum of 2 credits. Can each of those credits be served as an IAP, or is it a one-shot IAP?
I can take that one.
Okay.
For IAPs, a student can earn an IAP for each quarter high school credit they receive.
So
But I do want to say that if you're also offering IAPs for work experience, it's one or the other.
I have a quick question. So the prior slide that you could get the credit for the elective credit for their working, that would be CTE credit or
No.
general elective credit?
It's elective credit only. So for House Bill 1658, the previous slide, it's moved to the second slide, but the first slide, that elective credit for paid work is elective credit only. It doesn't qualify for CTE credit. It doesn't qualify for CTE enhanced funding. It's basic ed only. It can only be elective credit.
Okay. And then now back to the CTE portion. So we use Edgenuity as an online curriculum. That curriculum offers what they call CTE courses. Is that something that the OSPI knows, like anything about using online curriculum as a CTE class?
I do know a lot about that. What I can tell you is every CTE course that has to be approved by the state for you to offer it for CTE credit. How it gets approved is the district, if you're attached to a district, that district needs to apply by filling out an application with a course framework. For that course to be approved, it has to meet certain requirements, and it has to be taught by a CTE certified teacher. So online curriculum is a provider of curriculum, just like in the old days, it was a book that was providing the curriculum. The district itself has to have that course approved. So that's a little bit, so just because it's an online provider and they provide courses that look like CTE, I've frequently been asked, well, this looks like CTE and they're learning CTE skills. Can I count it for CTE credit? No, only if it's gone through the approval process at OSPI. And that process is defined on our CTE resources and essentials resource page on the website. But it is all just to kind of give you, it's also outlined here. Basically, you have to fill out that application. It requires a framework that's approved that outlines all of the details of the course. And that has to be done by the district, by someone at the district. And we have to have a part of the process is identifying that it will be taught by a CTE certified teacher. And the teacher has to have a certain, what's called a V code, vocational code for their certification for the course that's aligned to the, I don't want to get too deep here, but there's this, every CTE course has a national SIP code that it's attached to. So that V code has to be qualified to teach that SIP code. Similar to in, regular and basic ed, you have to have a certain certification in secondary ed to teach a certain subject. That's how this works for CTE. So you have to have the right V code. And then it has to be approved. So that's for CTE credit. And so just to kind of also, we do have some online courses in districts that have been approved because they've gone through that process. The district has gone through the process of submitting an online course. Thank you for putting that in there, Liz. The district will submit a course for approval. They've got a framework completed for and gone through the whole process for state approval with that online provider's course that they developed. So, but they also have a CTE certified teacher to teach it. Now, I know I also want to make sure that you understand the CTE credit is available, but the CTE enhanced funding is not. So, and that's what is referred to here in this slide as vocational funding. So when a class, and the reason, well, I can't give you all the details about it because that's not my area of expertise, but the way you're funded, the CTE enhanced funding would not be what would come to you, to your program, just because of the way Open Doors is funded, basically.
I do have one further question. I don't know
Mhm.
if it would be benefit anyone else, or maybe I should connect with you differently, but it would be about like splitting our students' FTE so that they could go to one of our other schools in the district for a CTE class. Can we give them partial
Allison,
enrollment?
I'll go ahead and take that. And the answer is no. The CTE course and package that Jill was referring to, that's something that your Open Doors program will need, your staff or your administrator will need to work in coordination with the CTE department to become part of their package as submitted, but you cannot split. So if the CTE program exists at the comprehensive high school or another setting outside of Open Doors, the student FTE cannot be split with that.
Hey, can I jump in on that question? Because there is one little route though off of that, and I don't know if it's the opportunities in your district. We have a CB Tech Center, which
Yeah.
people do associate as another school, but it really isn't a school within our district because it provides CTE courses to multiple districts, or students in Open Doors do and can do that program because it isn't our district high school. So if you have a local entity that's basically like a skill center or a CTE based schooling, you could utilize that in conjunction with Open Doors for those CTE pieces as well.
Thanks so much, Brandon. That's a good reminder of when we can share FTE. Skill centers are an entity that student full-time enrollment can be shared with.
And one other thing on the CTE thing, just because that's one of my new roles here, is the frameworks for if you're going to do a new class second semester or due to OSPI on the 15th. So
Yes, they are.
not much time.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
That is absolutely true.
Mandy
Jill,
or
there
Jill, may I jump in?
Sure.
What are districts doing then to kind of be able to offer that CTE credit? Many of us have limited staff, so I'm curious on what other Open Doors programs are doing.
I do not have as much familiarity with what Open Doors programs are doing, so that might be a Mandy or Liz question. Yeah. I don't know.
It varies, Ken. It's a great question. We're seeing more and more Open Doors programs working with their CTE departments and hiring staff part-time or full-time so that the Open Doors instructors are CTE certificated teachers and have worked with their district to have their course areas incorporated into their overall CTE allowances for the district as approved by OSPI. CTE and Open Doors have I think a very long history of not being easily braided together. So that is a much larger issue, but it's one we are aware of.
Thank you, Mandy. Another thing, it's not part of this slide, but something to be aware of is, the CTE graduation pathway option. For that pathway option to be available to you, if you're attached to it, the district, the building offering the school, the high school offering the diploma has to have the course to have a CTE graduation pathway, has to have the CTE courses approved for that high school. So I have had some questions recently where someone will say, I have a student taking a class in another district, and then it transfers back to my program, ALE or even comprehensive, but that building and that district do not have that CTE course approved for their high school. You cannot use that as a CTE graduation pathway. The CTE graduation pathway requires a 2-credit course sequence that are approved courses for the high school the student is graduating from. So keep that in mind, because that could impact some of you that are having kids take classes elsewhere. The CTE credit could transfer back, but the CTE classes in that course sequence for the CTE grad pathway have to be approved to be offered in your high school that they're graduating from.
Jill, is there a way that I can email you and you could email me? This is like all of the Snohomish County CTE directors are in a huge conversation about this right now. So if I could get that in email from you, that'd be fantastic.
Yes,
'Cause we have a
I've
meeting
actually
tomorrow.
had a few people from Snohomish County email me and I've emailed them back, and I would be glad to do that. So
Cool.
I
Okay.
don't know, was my contact information on that slide? I can't remember.
We
I
have
could-
it, and then when we do our post webinar, I think that the links will all be included for email contact.
So Cindy, just feel free to email me and I would be glad to respond back and give you something you can share with your colleagues.
Okay, Jenna, could you put the slide back one so they can see her contact information? And then Jill, there was one question in the Q&A that I didn't hear if you had answered, and that was for SHB 1658. Are there certain teacher endorsement requirements?
No, not a certain endorsement. They do have to be a secondary certified teacher. It can be a teacher, counselor, or principal who is responsible for overseeing that. But they have to have secondary education certification, but no particular endorsement is required. Good question. And I think there was a question in the chat. When are those resources coming out? This week, finally. It's this week. I know it. I'm hopeful in the next day or so that bulletin will be coming out. It will have attachments. It will have links and resources and my contact information. So please feel free to reach out if something needs to be clarified. But we're really happy that that's going out to help districts with that process.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Deal. We really appreciate it. I anticipate you will get many open doors questions. And for those folks who anticipate reaching out to Dr. Deal, you can, if you'd like, CC myself and Liz just for greater Q&A so that we can respond to your colleagues too with similar learned lessons. I think it's time that we're shifting gears, and I think we're moving on to talk about Running Start. And it's at this point that we welcome Becky McLean to represent on behalf of both dual credit and student apportionment. Becky, could you briefly introduce yourself?
Yes, hi. I'm Becky McLean, and I work here at OSPI in enrollment reporting, so P223, reporting your enrollment for state funding. And I've been here, I guess now 15 years, so I know the subject well. I've worked with Running Start and the dual credit folks for many years, how to roll out the FTE limitations. So when it comes to funding, areas around funding and Running Start, I'm knowledgeable. I do work closely with Tim McLean, who is the actual program supervisor here at OSPI for dual credit. And he's asked me to step in to present these slides since he's not able to today. So, but so to go over the one big update this year for Running Start is the limitation on what a student can be claimed for in any month changed from 1.2 to 1.4. And then that also applies to for the school year. So that allows a student to be enrolled in both high school and college and be claimed up to a 1.4 at any month. It also, a student can also go over the 1 FTE at any month at the college only. So they can take more than 15 college credits. They can take up to 21 college credits in any month. But the high school and Open Doors, or any high school program, including Open Doors, would be capped at 1 FTE. So, and because they opened this up to the summer for the AAFT, which is the annual average, for Running Start, that would be the average of the enrollment reported from October to August. Last year, we opened up the summer quarter. A student could access, could go up to 1.4 for the whole entire school year. Keep in mind the school year for our purposes starts in September and ends in August. So determining the AFT, you first, similar to Open Doors, right? You're looking at what happens. You keep track of the students' enrollment in starting in September, and then determine the average that from that forward. So the change, though, one change for this school year is that the summer quarter, which will be the summer 2024 quarter, students are limited to 10 credits. But also a change will be made that allows a student who has completed their sophomore year and are considered rising juniors for the summer quarter, they can enroll in Running Start. The bill on this was that allowed this was 1316, and one of the language in it emphasizes that access to Running Start should be available for home school students, private school students, students in tribal compact schools, as well as charter schools. So it expands the eligibility for fee waivers at the colleges too. So Tim with me we issued the bulletin. I'm sorry, I think it's 27/23 came out with a new Running Start verification form. So if you have students doing Running Start, you'll want to make sure that they're using the updated Running Start verification form, because that the table's been updated to allow for students to take up to 1.4. So also he has put together a technical guide that is out on the the course-based dual credit website, which kind of combines what I used to issue as the 1.2 Running Start limitation. It kind of rolls everything together into a publication, and covers all the nuances about Running Start and accessing this 1.4. Okay. Next slide. Unless there's questions.
Well, Becky, it looks like we're ready for Running Start, the after exit and summer quarter information.
Oh, okay. Can I see the next slide?
It magically changed.
Since I didn't prepare these slides, I wasn't aware. So another thing that happens with Running Start, or a different funding allocation out there, is what we're calling the after exit funding. It's a proviso. It's $3 million. And this is for students who they've graduated in June, but they want to access the summer quarter coming up. So they have to have be graduating seniors, and they have to have met the Running Start limitations for their senior year, meaning that they took, at least a full load of Running Start, was claimed as a 1 AFT, or took 45 college credits during the standard school year, or they took a combination of high school and college and was up to 1.4. So they can enroll in the summer quarter, and they can take up to 15 college credits. Another thing is they have to be within 15 college credits of attaining a degree. And so if they meet those requirements, they can enroll and take those classes. And this funding does not get included on the P223. It's not reported through apportionment. As I said, it's proviso money. So the funding is done outside. It's outside of the apportionment system, and is allocated we try to allocate it in the August apportionment. So again, for more information on this, Tim has created a bulletin that talks about what is required for this. So
thanks, Becky. One of the big things when it comes to Running Start is it's usually a somewhat small percentage of our Open Door students doing Running Start. But for those who may be rising juniors, or those who might be graduating on time, but also participating in Running Start, we just encourage you to reach out to Becky or Tim to learn more information about helping students to fully get all that they can out of their Running Start experience. Are there any questions for Becky before we move forward? All right, thank you so much, Becky, for joining us.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and go over what the credit requirements are for graduation. So like I said before, Washington State requires 24 credits for a diploma. Certain credits must be completed in specific content areas, and up to 2 credits can be waived locally based on a student's unusual circumstances. Students must meet their local district requirements to be eligible to graduate, and this might include additional credits. For more resources, you can visit the OSPI credit requirements webpage. And then there's also the graduation requirements for the class of 2023, which is on the State Board Education webpage. And then if you have any questions around requirements for graduation, I recommend contacting our program supervisor for secondary school counseling, Maria Muto, and her email is here on this slide. Go ahead and hand it over to Liz.
All right, so the new performance-based graduation pathway. So the legislature this past year, they passed House Bill 1308, and it created a new performance-based graduation pathway option. The State Board of Education has provided guidance on their website and in the form of a one-pager, and I think Jen is going to put the link of that page into the chat. The performance-based pathway allows students to show what they know and can do in real-world, hands-on ways that align with their individual goals after high school. This student-centered pathway is intended to be customizable with the aim of being relevant and engaging to the student. There's a lot of flexibility as the learning experience may take a variety of forms. Some examples are a project, a practicum, a work-related experience, community service, cultural activities. It may result in a variety of student work that can be evaluated. For example, performance, a presentation, portfolio, a report, a film or video that they've made, or an exhibit that's put out in front of other people. It may or may not be done as part of a class for credit. The performance-based pathway is combined with other English language arts and math pathway options, meaning the student can do one pathway in English language arts and another pathway in math. For example, a student could pass the state assessment in English language arts and then focus their performance-based pathway in math. Documentation will be required for providing evidence of the standards met and to what level. In order to provide the option for performance-based pathway, school districts must adopt a local policy that meets state requirements before offering the performance-based pathway option. The State Board of Education and WASDA, the Washington State School Directors Association, they're in the process of developing the sample language now, and new policies should be available in January. Some districts that have already laid groundwork may be able to begin with the class of 2024. For example, districts that are already doing mastery-based learning, districts that have local culminating project requirements, they may be able to develop this new pathway faster. So for more information about performance-based pathways, contact Linda Drake at the State Board of Education. Are there any questions about performance-based graduation pathways?
I'll do just a little transition here, which is, it's somewhat recent in Washington State where not just the 24 credit diploma, not just the high school and beyond plan, all those graduation requirements, one of them is the graduation pathway must also be met. So Liz was just presenting on the latest graduation pathway that's now available to students. And I think one of the big takeaways here is that performance-based graduation pathway can be, again, braided in alongside the other pathways that already exist. We know that Open Doors students deserve and need other opportunities to prove that graduation pathway. We're really hopeful that this is one that will be able to be highly utilized by our programs. I'm going to go ahead and
definitely we want to emphasize that whichever pathway the student meets for English language arts does not need to be the same pathway for math.
Thank you, Liz. transitioning forward, I'm going to go into a new direction, which is about the comprehensive sexual health education reporting requirements. You can see we're offering you a potpourri of various policies and topic areas that you might have missed over the last couple of years. To start off the content area around this particular policy, I wanted to showcase that there was a recent report issued by the Activate Center. It's titled Understanding the Sexual and Reproductive Health of Opportunity Youth, because those are the folks that we serve in Open Doors. So here are some data from that report, just to re-emphasize the importance of comprehensive sexual health education. Jenna, I'm ready for the next slide. Feel free to just click through it. So much like their connected peers, which mean those youth who are in school and or working, our opportunity youth are sexually active. When it comes to being sexually active in the past year, 77% of female opportunity youth and 69% of male opportunity youth were sexually active. When it comes to having an opposite sex partner, we have 74% of female opportunity youth and 66% of male opportunity youth. And when it comes to having a same-sex partner, we know that 10% of our female opportunity youth are having sex with a same-sex partner, while 5% of our male opportunity youth are also having sex with a same-sex partner. Just to reiterate the need and, again, the benefit of comprehensive sexual health for the particular age range of youth that we serve. Next slide, please. Closing out just the data from that report, it was also shared that 14% of opportunity youth identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual, or something else. And that's compared to 10% of peers who would be identified as in school or working. So again, being able to provide information to students who are historically marginalized becomes part of that duty within our Open Doors work. Next slide, please. This all boils down to reinforcing the comprehensive sexual health education and those education reporting requirements. Over the last couple of years, there's been some changes in in Washington State sexual health education requirements. Right now, all Washington public schools must provide comprehensive and medically accurate sexual health education to all students at least 2 times between grades 9 and 12, or 9 through 12. So again, that's our target population, and we know that they have needs. The update to this information is that now by September 1st of each year, all public schools must identify to OSPI any curricula that's been used to provide that comprehensive and medically accurate sexual health education. So again, like all the presenters before me, I'm going to say, please check these bulletins out because they outline in detail the resources available to you to meet this requirement and more background and context information. The Associate Director for Sexual Health Education at OSPI is Lori Dills. She answers these questions all day, every day. So please do reach out to her if you have questions about these particular requirements.
I'm going to go over the students' right to wear tribal regalia at school events. So students have the right to wear tribal regalia at school events. All school districts must allow American Indian and Alaskan Native K-12 and higher education students who are members of federally recognized tribes to wear tribal regalia and objects of cultural significance at graduation ceremonies and related events. Policies are to be updated accordingly at the district and college levels. And for more resources, you can read Bulletin 01423 or Bulletin 04520. I also recommend visiting the OSPI Office of Native Education webpage. And then the Program Supervisor for Student Success and Office of Native Education at OSPI is Mona Helcom, if you have any further questions.
Okay. So next we're going to talk about credit consolidation for highly mobile students and other students in specific populations. So the law RCW 28A 320 section 192 is for the purpose of eliminating barriers and facilitating the on-time grade level progression and graduation of students who are identified as highly mobile including state-dependent foster care students, post-resident students, or those who were formerly in an institutional education facility, child in needs of services, or CHINS, subject to dependency hearings, and students experiencing homelessness, or those otherwise identified as at risk. Those partial credits must be consolidated and granted. Not only must the credits be consolidated and granted for students who have been unable to complete an academic course and receive full credit due to withdrawal or transfer, school districts must grant partial credit for coursework completed before the date of withdrawal or transfer, and the receiving school must accept those credits, applying them to the student's academic progress or graduation or both, and allowing the student to earn credits regardless of the student's date of enrollment in that receiving school. GED and language credits for students formerly in institutional education. So in addition to the credit consolidation options, school districts are required to provide access to world language proficiency tests, American Sign Language or ASL proficiency tests, and GED tests for students in or released from an institutional education facility. School districts, they must award at least one high school credit upon meeting the State Board of Education with support from OSPI's established minimum scores for these tests. Additional credits may be awarded by the district if a student has completed a course or courses of study in preparation for the test. If the school district has and we actually have that same thing for IAPs in Open Doors. If the school district has a local policy for awarding mastery-based credit on state or local assessments, the school district must apply this policy for students in or released from an institutional education facility. For more information on credits for students formerly in institutional education, please contact Ada Daniels, and that is her information there. We have a question about how does partial credit for highly mobile students work with CTE pathways not being able to be used if they aren't from that school. Seems like it could be an equity issue for those students. That is definitely something that we can connect with our CTE department and have a conversation with them about that to make sure that there are student opportunities, or that there are crediting opportunities and graduation pathway opportunities for those highly mobile students. Thank you.
All right, so we're gonna go into our next mingle activity number 2. So just in a moment, I will put you all into breakout rooms again to talk to one another. The questions that we have are: which open doors pathways does your program offer? How are you using them to your students' advantage? And are you considering offering another one? So give me one moment and I'm going to put everyone in breakout rooms. Thank you everyone for participating in your breakout rooms. I hope that you guys all learned something new.
And welcome back. We are on the home stretch here, so I think maybe 10 more minutes and then we'll be adjourning. This is just a last bit of information regarding Open Doors resources, information, and events. Wanted to remind you that if you are not presently subscribed to the Open Doors newsletter, or if you've hired new staff or have anybody related to your programming at the district level who is new, please encourage them to also go ahead and register to receive our newsletter. We just have so many updates at a variety of levels that we're hoping everybody who needs to get the updates are getting them. That being said, you can look for newsletter announcements to tell you more details about the following webinars and PD dates They are not fully announced, but they are in process of being drafted. So as you already know, the summit happens at the end of this month. We're looking for November to do a data showcase presented by Education Northwest and the Community Partnerships for Reengagement Initiative. It will cover a lot of the data and the highlights that are also being showcased at the summit. So if you're unable to go to the summit, or if you caught the summit but you wanted a repeat of those data, you can get it in November during the data showcase webinar. In the new year, January, we're hoping to offer a short and sweet webinar on how the summer pilot's going, to be able to tell folks the deeper details and share some of the lessons learned and the stories that came out of the summer programming. Moving into February, we're looking to partner with the Department of Social and Health Services, Division of Rehabilitation and Training, DVR, Division of Vocational Training, to offer a pre-employment transition informational webinar. So many of our students who are students with disabilities could qualify from this additional support, and it blends right into our mission to help students not just gain academically, but also work in career skills and opportunities. So watch for that. And we're looking to March for a hopeful re-engagement and reentry webinar offering. Our presenters have not yet been identified, but what we're hoping to do is increase everybody's information and awareness of the needs that come along with students who are re-entering, leaving institutional education facilities and re-entering into their community. So next slide. Also, recently, the WASAC webinar was posted. What does that mean? You're probably wondering. Well, much like today when we talked about policy and updates, every year the Washington School Counselors Association partners with OSPI to offer like an all call for school counselors with all the newest and latest policy updates and things to pay attention to for the year ahead. We highly encourage that you watch this WASAC recording because it goes into detail about the high school and beyond plan, financial aid advising, along with resources. They go into more depth in the dual credit information, as well as Career Connect Washington. So where we were not wanting to hold you for a 3 or 4 hour webinar, we thought we would do half and then offer you the WASAC webinar recording. Pro tip, you can watch it on YouTube at 1.5 speed and go through the chapters until you get to the information you're most looking for. Again, all of these links will be provided in this post-webinar follow-up. Final reminder on clock hours, please check your email after this webinar. There will be both an evaluation survey and a registration link to PD Enroller, where you can, again, it'll look like a re-registration, but what it does is register you to receive the clock hours for the day. And that's it. If you have questions, we know you know how to get a hold of us, but if you're new, please don't hesitate. There's no question too small. No worries if you think I should probably already know this. There's no embarrassment and no judgment to be had here. You can reach out to myself, Jenna, and Liz all at the same time or one-on-one. We highly encourage you to visit our website and browse through our various pages, including our Getting Started Toolkit, our resources page, and our reports page. We're constantly updating with new information, new resources, and trying to clarify technical guidance so that it's easier for you to implement. We really appreciate that you joined us today. Thank you so much for having spent this duration with us. We look forward to seeing you at the summit, and we hope that you have a wonderful day.